KNES English Medium Junior College welcome its 12th standard students for the online lecture of philosophy for chapter 4 How do we know? For the topic Sources of Knowledge and the Scientific Perspective. Students, in today's lecture of chapter 4, How do we know? We are going to study about the following topic, that is sources of knowledge, rationalism, empiricism, the limit of rationalism and empiricism, and the scientific perspective of how do we know. Sources of knowledge. Having understood the concept of knowledge and theories of truth in the Western tradition, let us get acquainted with the sources or the means of knowledge discussed in this tradition. As we have noted earlier, epistemology was truly established in Europe after Renaissance. This was the period of stunting growth and development of science. Science had established new standards of knowledge of the empirical world. Prior to this period, no theory, opinion or viewpoint was enormously agreed upon in the field of psychology. The truth discovered by the science were, however, universal. Truth for all times and objectives. There was no room for relativity in them. The philosopher acknowledged these new types of knowledge, undertook a deep study of the process of knowledge and its meaning. Reason, perception, memory, intuition, testimony, all can be considered as a source of knowledge. As we have observed last year, in the Western tradition, however, reason and sense perception have a central place in the period of modern philosophy. In fact, the two main trends of modern philosophy are known as rationalism and empiricism. These two trends are generally considered as being opposite to each other. There are fundamental differences between them with respect to the question whether the basic source of knowledge is reason or sense perception. What is the exact place, role of reason and sense perception in the process of knowledge? Which one of them is primary? What is the nature of the knowledge that emerged from them? These types of questions were discussed during this period. All this discussion took place on the background of the progress of science as well as that of speculatism, which was popular at the time. The philosophers in this period were trying to refute speculatism. They wanted to establish the possibility of objective knowledge by way of analyzing the process of knowledge. A critical analysis of the process of knowledge that can produce objective knowledge were therefore important. In this constant, one of the major points of difference between rationalism and empiricism was whether all knowledge can be obtained through sense experience, or whether reason can attain knowledge without being associated with experience. Let us understand this point with reference to a particular classification of knowledge. The classification was used primarily in this very period. Knowledge that can be gained prior to or before any experience is called as a priori knowledge. Knowledge that is attained after experience or on the basis of experience is called as posteriori knowledge or empirical knowledge. According to rationalism, knowledge primarily emerged from reason. Knowledge being with reason has the capacity to know certain truth prior to or without sense experience. Due to this belief, rationalists accept the possibility of a priori knowledge. Imperialists, however, completely deny such a possibility, since according to them all knowledge of the empirical world is based on sense experience. Reason cannot know anything independent of sense experience. For them, a posteriori or empirical knowledge is important. Before getting better acquainted with these two trends, let us note that the word experience in this discussion notes sense experience. Experience can be various kinds, but the type of experience that we discuss as a source of knowledge is the experience that we get through sense experience. Rationalism. Descartes, Spinoza, Gottfried, Leibniz are known as a rationalist. Descartes introduced the method of doubt. Descartes wanted to prove that skepticism is completely wrong. He tried to discover an indubitable truth for this purpose. He himself was a scholar not only of philosophy but also of mathematics and science. The method of mathematics has influenced him a lot. The truth in mathematics are objective and universal. This truth do not change with respect to place, time, culture or individual. Rationalists consider mathematics to be an ideal kind of knowledge. They believe that if the method of mathematics is used in other branch of knowledge, it would be possible to attain the same kind of knowledge in these branches also. One of the peculiarities of mathematical truth is that they are not derived from experience. They are not based on experience. The truth cannot be proved on the basis of experience. The source of mathematical knowledge is reason, and it can be justified only on the basis of reason. In contrast, the knowledge gained through experience is often relative to time, situation and person. Empirical knowledge cannot be certain and universal due to this relativity. That is why as a source of certain universal and objective knowledge, the rationalists attribute great importance to reason. Let us understand the view of the rationalists regarding the prescribed role of reason in the process of knowledge with reference to Descartes' view on the same. Descartes was of the opinion that there are some inborn ideas in the mind of all humans. These ideas are called innate ideas. This means that these ideas are not obtained from sense experience. Therefore, the truth this is not dependent on experience. They give us the knowledge that is certain. The three major examples that Descartes gives to such idea are: 1. Our own existence. Second, the existence of God, and third, the existence of matter. We have seen How Descartes proved the existence of self by the method of doubt. We understood the truth of the statement, I think, therefore. I am is a clear. Clarity and distinctness are the characteristics of truth. The proposition all the sides of the square have equal length make the concept of square very clear. At the same time, it makes us realize that a rectangle cannot be a square. That is, it clearly explains the distinctiveness or the difference of the square from a rectangle. The method of Descartes for attaining such truth is similar to the geometrical method. Just as theorems are proved on the basis of axiom in geometry, every proposition must be proved to be indictable and certain in other fields of knowledge too. However, for this purpose one must begin with axioms. Since axioms are assumed to be true, it is necessary to begin with uncontroversial, indictable truth themselves. Such truths are self-evident. They do not require any external justification. I think therefore I am is such a self-evident truth. We know this and other such truths through intuition. Descartes direct revelation of or knowledge that reason has. Knowledge is produced on the basis of such intellectual intuition and deductive proof. Sense experience is always of a particular object, characteristic, relation or event. But it is reason that provides general or universal principle necessary for me making sense of it. Descartes believed that reason starts functioning before experience of any kind on the basis of innate idea. He acquired knowledge in an a priori manner. Descartes' views were supported and further attained by Spinoza and Leibniz. Spinoza urged that in principle all knowledge is attained through reason. He of course didn't acknowledge the limit of human reason, but he was of the opinion that if this limit would have not been there, everything would have been known through reason alone. Leibniz put forward the idea that it is not only the idea of the existence of self or God that are innate, but all mathematical or logical principles are also innate in the human mind. He believed that if this would not have been the case, then it would have not been possible to think in a logical manner. He thought that in a sense all knowledge is innate. In this entire tradition of rationalism, subordinate place have been given to experience. Imperialism. Locke, Berkeley, Hume are the three philosophers who advocate imperialism. Imperialists deny the possibility of a priori knowledge, as they firmly believe that knowledge cannot be produced without experience. Knowledge is produced from the data of information that is provided by the sense organ. Afterward, reason processes it. Without experience, there is nothing available for reason to process. That is why reason alone cannot give us the knowledge of the world. They are of the opinion that sense organs connect our consciousness to the external world, and unless such a connection is established, it is not possible to know the world. Locke rejected Descartes' notion of innate idea completely. In his view, there are no ideas that are present in the mind of human being at the time of birth. For him, the idea of God does not seem to be inherent in the mind of the child. They learn it in the process of socialization. Atheists deny the existence of God. Moreover, those who believe in the existence of God differ from each other about His nature. Locke argued that at the time of birth, prior to any experience, mind is tabula rasa, that means a clean slate. It is that kind of slate on which no letter alphabet has left their mark. It is only through experience that alphabets start appearing on it. This means that all the ideas found in the mind originate in experience. Ideas about the surrounding world are created through sensations that we receive from the five sense organs, whereas the ideas about the inner world are created through the experience of mind. Sense perception and introception are the foundation, fundamental sources of knowledge. At the beginning of the process of knowledge, a mind is inactive or passive. It only receives the idea from this source. Once the ideas are received, the mind becomes active and starts processing them. It understands the interrelation among the ideas, the external and the internal sensation, as it provides the raw material needed to be produced for the production of knowledge. Knowledge is produced after reason processes them. Locke viewed that knowledge attained through experience must be justified on the basis of experience itself, its consistency with the method of science today. Another very significant point regarding Locke's epistemology is that in his opinion, that we know the quality, relation and action of an object, but we can never have a direct knowledge of the substance underlying all this. If we analyze the experience of a pen in front of us, we realize that the actual experience is of the color, shape, texture, etc. of the pen. We do not experience anything when pen beyond all this. Of course, we do believe that all these are the characteristics of pen, but there is no empirical ground for this belief. We believe it only on the basis of reason. Locke divides the quality of an object into primary quality and secondary quality. Since the existence of color, form, smell, taste, texture and sound is dependent on their being experienced, Locke called them secondary quality. The knowledge of this quality changes from person to person. As against this, the qualities such as size, solidity and mass are in the object. Therefore, he called primary quality. This primary quality can be known in an objective manner, since their existence does not depend upon their being experienced. However, the primary quality can be known through the secondary quality only. This means that whatever known in the world we can have a direct experience of secondary quality only. The idea produced from the experience alone are the object of this direct experience. We can never directly know the substance which is supposed to be beyond all this quality, as we do not directly experience it any time. In spite of this, Locke accepts the existence of the substance. The second imperialist philosopher Berkeley goes a step ahead to Locke and said that he accepted the existence of anything that cannot be experienced is not consistent with the epistemological position of imperialism. Berkeley argued that since the knowledge of the primary quality is also through the secondary one, the knowledge of primary quality is also subjective. Only the idea that we experience and the mind that experience them are real. There is no epistemological support to accept the existence of that cannot be experienced. Berkeley therefore rejected the existence of material substance. In his opinion, the objects that we experience are nothing but a collection or a group of ideas. The material substance which is supposed to be on the basis of all the character that we experience does not exist. He have acquainted ourselves with some of the idea of the third imperialist David Hume. In some of the earlier lessons, epistemological point of view which was which is the foundation of those ideas. Locke and Berkeley. Hume also argued that all ideas are generated through experience. He classified our experience into impressions of ideas. Through sense perception, different impressions are created in our mind. The mind generates ideas on the basis of this impression. However, mind does not use only experience for generating ideas. Many times it is also influenced by the power of imagination. Using this power, mind combines two or more ideas which are never actually experienced through and created an new idea. An excellent example of these ideas is the Golden Mountain. We do not experience gold and mountain, but none of us has ever seen the Golden Mountain. Yet the mind can imagine the Golden Mountain through such example. Hume explained that there need not always be something corresponding to the donate by the idea in our mind. That is why it is essential to examine the idea in the mind in a rigorous manner. Hume classified object of knowledge into two types, relation of idea and matter of fact. The first type consists of the idea created by reason itself. The truth is not based on experience but is justified by experience. The kind of knowledge is necessary, universal and certain. Its truth is not dependent on the external condition and is accepted by everyone at all conditions. Mathematics and logic are the example of these kind of idea. The second type of idea is about the fact in the external world. Experience is the fundamental source of this knowledge. The nature of experience changes with relation to place, time and person. Therefore, this knowledge is certain. Its truth is not necessary but only probable. Scientific knowledge is of this type. Scientific truths are probable, not necessary. The idea of the causation and the idea of self fall under category of matter of fact. It has to be examined whether all the ideas in this category originate from experience in order to assess the truth and justifiability of this kind of knowledge. Hume is of the opinion that if those ideas do not merge with experience, they should not be given any place in the system of knowledge. Hume firmly asserted that if there is no corresponding impression in the mind of certain idea, then such ideas are epistemologically worthless and must be discarded. We should understand Hume's critical analysis of the idea of possession and that of self. Hume goes one step ahead to Berkeley and rejected reality not only of the material substance but also of the spiritual substance that is soul. He also denied that there are necessary relation between cause and effect. Hume is called a skeptic because he has raised doubt about the possibility of knowledge for certain and necessary truth pertaining to the external world. Hume's spectralism is called mitigate or sober, since Hume accepted the mathematical and logical truth as certain, which means that he does not totally reject the possibility of certain knowledge. The limit of rationalism and empiricism. The journey of epistemology that starts with Descartes in modern philosophy reached a certain stage in Hume. Hume's practical position brings it to our notice that though this journey begins with the objective of eliminating spectralism permanently, it is very difficult to reach that objective. The interconnection between epistemology and metaphysics that we observe in this context of Indian philosophy are seen here too. Rationalism put forward the possibility of certain and indictable truth, but it did not successfully explain how the truth gained through reason alone can give us the knowledge corresponding to the external world. As we have seen, the example of such truth are mathematical and logical truth, but these truths do not tell us anything about the world. This observation is the way support the imperialist viewpoint that the knowledge of external world has to be attained through experience. However, the development of imperialism once again leads to spectralism. It was formally established because the Hume critical analysis of knowledge, the empirical knowledge is only probable and it cannot be necessarily true. Knowledge gained through reason is certain, but there is no guarantee that it corresponds with the external world, and the knowledge of external world that is gained through experience can never be certain, such as predictable that was generated in epistemology. Immune Kant and critical philosophy was developed through the attempt to respond to this crisis by offering critical of rationalism and imperialism. Kant proved that knowledge cannot be produced unless reason and experience are conjoined in a proper manner. Reason provides the form of the pattern, structure of knowledge, while experience fills it with the context. Knowledge is created through the inner interconnection situation, constituents of form and context. It is true that mere sense perception cannot generate knowledge unless it is arranged in a pattern provided by reason. But it is only equally true that reason cannot know the universal without being provided empirical context by sense experience. This is how Kant explained the interdependence of reason and experience. Kant analyzed the process of knowledge is quite close to the research that is going on in this connection in neurology today. The scientific perspective. Epistemology has been discussed in philosophical tradition. It must note that when philosophers were questioning about the epistemological issue, they were doing it without the tools that are present today. Science used to investigate their reflexive theme from personal experience, introspection and broader knowledge of the world. Science is the study of objective reality that is verifiable to anyone and everyone who wish to verify What does science tell us about how we gain knowledge? When we look at the process of acquiring knowledge in scientific manner, we see that the knowledge from individual and knowledge for society are two different things. Science is a collective effort of studying the law of nature that govern objective reality by using tools and instruments. From the point of view of scientific knowledge, it is immaterial how a person understands it with his sense. For example, our sensory knowledge would never tell us about the behavior of an atom. Collective knowledge and tools of experimentation help us to overcome the limitation of individual capacity to gain knowledge. How do biology and neuroscience study the process of knowledge? They study how sensations are received and what follow in the body with the help of the experiment and instrument. It is also important to note that since life has emerged from the non-living world, the law of physics which govern the material world are only applicable to the living world. How is the knowledge acquainted explained at the level of physical science? The answer is, it is through sense organ that we receive sensation from different particles. We see because of the photons, hearing, smell, taste and touch. All the senses are dependent on particles. Since particles are always dispersing from each other, theoretically they do not reach us without any loss or distortion. They Thus, any claim of exact knowledge of reality is unscientific. The same principle also applies to the accuracy in measurement with the help of tool and instrument. Accurate measuring acquire calibration and standardization. Since we do not know anything faster than the speed of light, we have to accept the limits of the tools of measurement of its speed. With reference to method of science, one sees that science does not claim to know the ultimate reality as it is. Science adopts the language of probability while accepting any proposition or the system as knowledge. For example, when we say gravity is a law, we are actually saying that it is higher probable that such a force exists. It is only when we accept this highly probable statement as a reality that it becomes possible to conduct objective experiment with it or to develop a technologically application based on it.